It seems as though there's lots of little different demons inside of me, and the more I give to them, the more hungry they get.
Whoa!
My name's George King, and I'm an extreme athlete. I climbed some of the tallest buildings in the world. There's no safety equipment, really just chalk, and I mean, sometimes it's barefoot. And when it comes to surveillance, is that, yeah, I have to adopt different identities and disguises so that I can get the information I need. I've climbed the Shard. That was probably the most notable one. I thought I knew it all at 19, but I was a little kid. If I knew what I knew now, the process would have been a bit different. I was met by different police officers. I kind of just put my hands out to get arrested. When you climb a building, it's like everything's in slow motion, everything's precise, everything's clean. Every sense is heightened to optimize your survival. Every neurochemical, serotonin, dopamine, endorphins are all firing at once for one particular reason, your survival. And it takes you to a place which I can't describe, but I can feel to the bone. I think that's the very feeling I feel as though I constantly have to chase.
My name is Caspar Wiley, and I've known George for about 14 years, I would say. We went to school together. There was a playground at school, and I'd film him try and do things that he wasn't meant to be doing in the playground, like jumping off the places he shouldn't, climbing the things he shouldn't. That's how it started.
I must have been a teenager when I moved on to cranes, and then things escalated from there.
He became enchanted by cranes, not just climbing them, but he almost became obsessed with them as an architecture, and understanding how you can climb up them, walk along them, the process of breaking into a construction site and climbing them. When he first climbed one, I remember he said it was one he could see from his bedroom window. He asked me to film it, and I refused to film it because at that point I suddenly realized he was taking things too far. When he got older and even better at climbing, and he just made it absolutely clear to me that it was going to be his life, I kind of just stopped telling him not to do it and just went with it.
I was on a school art trip from Oxford to London. I was 13 years old and I saw the Shard, and instantly in that moment, I felt my destiny was somehow surrounded by this building.
Dominating the skyline is the Shard, standing at 310 meters tall.
Maybe it was because it was the tallest in the UK, and I had this ego thing where I wanted to be number one. The planning was around 8 to 12 months.
And that was when I was actually living with him for 8 months in Enlightening in London.
I had to visit this building well over 100 times, and I didn't want to create pattern recognition. I didn't want the security to see this person coming every single day, so I had to switch up my identity quite a few times. One of the ways that I do that is I adopt different disguises.
Looking at our mail in the apartment, there'd be like a fucking beard or like a weird pair of sunglasses. Like, this can't be for us, you know. And he's like, oh no, mate, it is. I'm dressing up as a whatever, and you know. I'm like, okay.
Sports kit. I'm a gym goer. I've got a protein shake in one hand and I'm run to the Shard. I go up to a pillar and I stretch on the pillar. See that it goes from my wrist to my elbow. Okay, that's all I need.
He'd be lying on the floor, measuring his body on the kitchen floor, putting duct tape to kind of map out what all the poles to go up the Shard looked like. His room was like a mastermind's room with pictures and things all over the Shard and ways to get in.
And I'd spray some aftershave on, I'd wear the suit, and I'd become this office worker. I noticed that when people have a cigarette, they look aimlessly. I don't smoke, I have a cigarette, and I look in a gaze, and whilst I'm in this gaze, I'm looking at the cameras. And I pretend to be drunk on a bench in London Bridge Station, assessing every single bit of movement. So for example, 1 o'clock in the morning, security goes from hut A to hut B, note it down. 2 a.m, there's an announcement, note that down. 3 a.m, cleaner goes from platform 9 to platform 10, note it down. And I'd find correlations amongst the data to find the most prime time to strike. I didn't sleep. I tried to sleep, I didn't sleep. The climb was set out around, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I go into the London Bridge Station and I'm there, finally, this is my moment. I'm zoning into this and that, and the senses are so heightened. What it comes down to is I take a deep breath and I submit to the process.
And I got a video of George halfway up the Shard at 6 in the morning before work for me. And to actually see him on like this little figure on the Shard, to see him after 8 months of him talking about it and dreaming about it and it being like every part of his life, it was a very surreal moment. It's surreal for anyone to see, but for me particularly because I know how much it meant to him.
When I was climbing the building, there's a particular moment which burns deep to this day where I see like a maintenance man through the window and he looks at me and I look at him and like, I just give him a little wink and a nod and he waves at me and I wave at him and I just like, it was just such a surreal moment to see the look in his eyes of sheer horror but excitement and thrill, and just, it was a very profound feeling and experience. I'm on top of this building and looking over London, and all these years of dreaming and months of planning have finally come true. I'm there living my dream. I was met by different police officers. I kind of just put my hands out to get arrested and they shook my hand. I trespassed on an area which shouldn't be trespassed, and by doing so, I'm in contempt of court. I was sentenced to 6 months in adult prison, and I ended up serving 3 months of that sentence.
When he went to prison, he like wrote pages and pages of these ideas on what he wanted to climb next. It was so ironic that he went to prison to look back at how he'd done something wrong, but actually just spent the time planning his next missions, you know. He's good at just taking on anything bad or good and just seeing it as an interesting experience.
It's all subjective to people's view on what I do, you know. Adrenaline junkie, thrill seeker, athlete, artist, explorer, you know. I don't really know what the fuck I am.
Woo!
I have to adopt different identities and disguises, but at the same time, what I do, the principle of it is raw, it's real, there's nothing fake about it. It's as real as it gets.
He's just an unusual guy. I think sometimes it's as simple as that. He has made me a lot more excited about being on this planet because of some of the ridiculous things he's done.